I've read it, I've said it, and I believe it. Judas Priest is one of the most highly influential heavy metal bands of all time. They started out in like 1969, and they're still packing arenas today. There's been some up and downs in there, but what I want to do is go through each album very quickly. There's been some Judas Priest collections shared on the vinyl community. Harmless Rebel has 2 parts out of 3, I think. I'm not sure if he's done the third part yet or not. And then also Captain Howdy has done a Judas Priest collection just recently. So that inspired me to do something I've been wanting to do for a long time. Go through the collection, show you guys some of the inserts and the labels, and just kind of make a couple comments to keep this thing going quick. So thanks for checking this out. This one is for metalheads only. All right, the first stack here, I start with the first album. Get the glare, anti-glare going there. This is Judas Priest's debut album, Rocka, Rolla. This is my UK pressing on Gull. Notice on the back it says Bob Halford. I really hadn't even heard this album until just about a year ago when I obtained it. A couple years later, Judas Priest released Sad Wings of Destiny, their second album. This is the first time you actually see the emblem, the Judas Priest emblem there used, that the angel has on. This was also released on Gull, but check out this label, this Janus Records. I've never really seen this except for probably this album. The album kicks off with a 1-2 punch with 2 killer tracks for all time, Victim of Changes and Ripper. The rest of the album is very good, and I recently gave the whole thing a listen on a road trip and did not disappoint. About a year later, Judas Priest signed with Columbia and would stick with them all the way through till 1990. This is a US press of Sin After Sin. This is an interesting compilation album called The Best of Judas Priest. It's released on Milan and was pressed in West Germany. I like the cropped in photograph of this John Hinch in the corner there. If you guys aren't going to let me take a picture with you, fine, I'm going to Photoshop myself in. In 1978, Judas Priest released Stained Class. Very cool album with the opener Exciter, which is also a live favorite on Unleashed in the East, which we'll get to in a minute. One of the all-time favorite tracks on this, Beyond the Realms of Death. One of probably top 3 Judas Priest songs all time. Killer guitar work from Downing and Tipton with their dual guitar attack, and just a killer song. Hell Bent for Leather. Classic cover. Just look at that shattered glass. I happen to have 2 copies. One is a US copy on Columbia, and the other one is US copy white label promo with the song titles and track times on the front. Unleashed in the East, or Live in Japan, or Unleashed in the Studio. Later on, Rob Halford did admit to re-recording some of the vocals because the microphone wasn't mic'd correctly and they were just ruined. So some of this was overdubbed in the studio. But this is some of the earliest Priest that I ever heard. And you're talking about killer versions of Victim of Changes and Diamonds and Rust and Green Metal Ishii. This is just a great album and should be in anybody's heavy metal collection. British Steel. Again, another one of the most recognizable album covers. Hit tracks such as Breaking the Law and Living After Midnight helped Judas Priest break into the US mainstream for sure. The 2 other tracks on here that you can't ignore is Metal Gods and Grinder. In 1981, there was a double LP compilation released on Gull Records. This happens to be pressed through Victoria, which is also a unique label that I've only seen on this particular album. Classic hit Heading Out to the Highway is found on this album. But one of my favorite tracks on here is Desert Plains. 4.5 minute onslaught of good music.
From an unknown land through distant skies came a winged warrior. Nothing remained sacred. No one was safe from the Hellion as it uttered its battle cry, screaming for vengeance.
One of the most recognizable albums and fan favorites. When you flip side 2 and drop the needle, Rob Halford's screaming, wailing voice welcomes you to Screaming for Vengeance, which is just a killer track for all time. Probably one of the best top 5 heavy metal songs of all time. You've Got Another Thing Coming, played on the radio all the time. Definitely put them in the mainstream, and probably one of the first Judas Priest songs I ever heard. But this album also has Hellion and Electric Eye, which are great tracks. And with the order form included in this album, you could order your own merchandise
of the Winged Warrior Hellion.
And this is my sealed copy as well. No reason to open it when I have got that nice minty fresh one. It's a bootleg. I'll take a sidebar here from the studio albums to take a look at Judas Priest live at the US Festival. This LP is original. This is a bootleg called File Under Judas Priest, Deliver the Message, and it's misspelled on the back, Deliver the Massage. But this was apparently part of a bootleg series where all the bootlegs looked like file folders and the records were placed inside. This is the only one I have of this series, but it's pretty unique and I like it. And what else is unique is the record that it was pressed on. The labels are incorrect. Apparently at the pressing plant, if there were inspectors coming through or some kind of copyright police or whatever it might be, they may check out some of the labels to make sure they're not pressing illegal records. And so they use these labels here, which has nothing to do with the contents on the record. So really cool bootleg there from 1983. And then Defenders of the Faith. In 1984, Defenders of the Faith brought a little bit more of the same kind of radio hits with Some Heads Are Gonna Roll, kind of that driving groove beat. But Love Bites and Eat Me Alive are really good tracks on here that I like. And then the opener, Free Will Burning, is really good. But good album, doesn't get a lot of love, but I do like it. All right, moving on to the next stack here. Now this collection is almost complete, as long as you add one CD and one tape. But other than that, maybe I'm one or two live albums short of having a complete collection, so it's really cool to have this. And a lot of these albums were courtesy of Captain, not Captain Howdy, but a work friend of mine that I've known for over 17 years gave me his record collection about a year ago. Then in 1986, Judas Priest did Turbo, which is my least favorite album. Double LP, Judas Priest Live. Some people argue that they like this better than Unleashed in the East. They mix it up a little bit on the playlist. It's a really good concert and a good double LP. 1988's Ram It Down. Ram It Down is a great track. My favorite all-time song on this album is Blood Red Skies, and probably one of my favorite Judas Priest tracks. Also on the same side is probably one of my least favorite Priest tracks, their cover of Chuck Berry's Johnny B. Good. Why? Why, guys? Why? Probably my all-time favorite Judas Priest album, Painkiller. Not a lot of people say that. They usually go back to the older ones. But I was 15 years old when this came out. And like I said before, Ram It Down and some of the radio hits were songs I knew very well. But this was like a whole new Priest to me. I mean, just look at the album art. Now, I didn't mind the fantasy lyrics or the Dungeons and Dragons lyrics. Man, this thing was killer. From the pounding motorcycle drum-like sound of Painkiller to the slower tempo Hell Patrol to All Guns Blazing, not to be confused with AC/DC's version. Leather Rebel probably could have done without, but still a very cool song. The Metal Meltdown with its slowed down guitar sliding riffs to it. But Slide 2 with the song Nightcrawler, I mean, that's a song that would really just scare the crap out of me. And I still remember some of the, almost all of the lyrics today. Between the Hammer and the Anvil, that song is killer, but it's a lot like One Shot at Glory, where it's a little more anthemic. Touch of Evil, that song is phenomenal. Battle Hymn just shreds on the guitar, and then just goes into like this whole anthemic, you know, one last shot at glory, shredding on the guitar. It's just a killer album. One of my favorite Judas Priest albums. Tim Ripper Owens joined the band in '97 to release Jugulator. I was pretty eager about the release, but was a little bit let down. I like a couple tracks on the tape, but don't like it in long doses. It seems a bit repetitious, but glad that Judas Priest had a new album out, and the new singer, he did a great job. I mean, nobody else could come as close to Rob Halford than Tim Owens, and they kind of found their own Brian Johnson, if you will. Ripper Owens got one more crack at an album with Judas Priest's 2001 issue Demolition. Pretty solid album, but not one I revisit too often. Although Ripper did a great job being the frontman for Judas Priest for a short time, with a sigh of relief in 2003 or 4, Rob Halford announced that he would be joining back with Priest. 2005, Angel of Retribution was released. Excellent, excellent album, and it feels like when you first started to listen to it that Halford had brought some of the his metalcore, real heavy metal project sound from Fight and Halford back into Judas Priest. A good example is Judas Rising, which is just a phenomenal song. It's very edgy and has all the darkness and power behind it as any classic Judas Priest song would. So, welcome back, Rob Halford. The Nastradamus Box Set. I don't know what Judas Priest was thinking here, a little bit off the beaten path for sure. But it's not too bad. I mean, put the CD in and let it play. There's 2 or 3 tracks I really like off of it. It's a little bit lengthy. This is the box set, which is very nice. It's a lot of material and a lot of stuff. You put a lot of time into it, so it's a really good piece. It's not something I like to revisit a lot of times. But like I said, there's a couple 3 songs on here that I really like, and it's a cool piece in the collection. 3 LPs, 6 sides, and 2 CDs with a nice booklet inside. Is really nice. I have to warn you before you purchase this box set, make sure that it's open and verify that the plastic sleeves that the records came in were removed early on, because the plastic, as a manufacturing issue, some of the plastic melted onto the vinyl. So when it plays back just with it sounds slightly muddy. You can listen to them. The plastic does not come off on the needle, but it does sound just a little bit muddy, so I prefer to listen to the CDs because I did happen to get the damaged one. It also comes with this really cool fold-out poster. (2014's long-awaited release, Redeemer of Souls. Judas Priest lost no momentum whatsoever, despite a devastating blow that KK Downey would no longer be with the band. Replaced by Richie Faulkner on guitars, gelled seamlessly with Tipton for an amazing album and one of my favorites since Painkiller. Great imagery, great packaging, track after track. This is just a solid album. Custom labels, sounds perfect. You drop the needle on it, it doesn't even make a sound. And then on Record Store Day, they released 5 Souls. You got 5 extra tracks as a follow-up, and 4 out of the 5 tracks are killer and could have fit on the album. So thanks guys for watching. Hope it went by pretty quick for you. This is just a killer Judas Priest collection, and I'm glad to have them. A lot of Columbia labels in there, I know, but just great hard rock from the 70s, more blues sounding Judas Priest to the full-blown new wave of British heavy metal. Just really enjoy the collection. So record collectors out there, if you're new to collecting records or you're new to Judas Priest, don't worry about it. They're very easy to come across for the most part and very affordable. So good luck putting your Judas Priest collection together. And if you see or have the ones I'm missing, give me a call or an email, okay? Thanks for watching guys. Everybody take care. Stay metal.